how do you think about finding and picking the right technologies to try to help them have success?
Well, that is the question. We are literally in the middle of due diligence. So we'll be announcing our next cohort in August or September, somewhere in between there. But yeah, I set out and I said that I really was looking for technologies focused in freight and logistics. I think 2020 has, if you weren't into e-commerce, you definitely are now.
Yeah.
And so I think, one, I really do want people to understand that there's a cost to, it being Christmas every day, like having that little smiling box on your doorstep. Like there's an environmental cost to that. But I think freight and logistics is, they're really the workhorse of our nation and so many other countries, and really trying to figure out how can we do this even more efficiently. Like, I will say Amazon Ops, like that's an amazing team. Like they have figured out, like they specialize in execution. And it's trying to think of how do we incorporate more environmental awareness within those types of operations, beyond Amazon, of course. And they have decided to electrify their fleet. But I think to your point, right, we're still, doubling down on finite resources of lithium and cobalt. And so we're going to need to continue to figure out how do we innovate, once those batteries are dying and dead, right? There's second life battery technology that still isn't really getting the love that it needs, in terms of industry, and figuring out how do we recycle them. So I would say freight and logistics, one, just figuring out how do we move packages more efficiently, is first. Electrification continues to be an exciting topic. It's still, Greg Bennett at K4 likes to call it the wild, wild west of like, how do we get these chargers in the ground? And that really is a challenge, right? I'm not a big fan of the peer-to-peer kind of EV charging sharing, like I think there's still a lot of challenges in having other people come onto private property. And so, I think, malls and things like that are really great places to put them, but I think there's going to be, and that's why I'm excited, right? We're going to have, 500,000 new chargers in the next 5 years put into the ground, and trying to figure out where to put them. That was something that I was challenged with working with EVgo on the VW settlement with San Francisco's funds, is where do you put the chargers? Like, do you put them where you want there to be more EVs, or do you put them where there are currently EVs? We all know who currently has EVs and who doesn't have EVs.
Yeah.
So is that very equitable? So I do want to focus on the charging aspect more than the vehicle, at this point in terms of passenger vehicles. I will say I was really excited when we found ChargerHelp. ChargerHelp is a company from the previous cohort 9. And it's 2 women that are doing the servicing of those EV chargers, right? Like there's no point in having a charger if it's down. And the average time that a charger is down is 30 days, which is phenomenal, right? So it's Camille Terry and Yvette Alice are putting this together, and they're training people to be EVSE technicians, which is a whole new job classification that they got created at the federal level. So one, that's a creation of a green job, which is the other thing that I'm looking for when I'm doing due diligence. And then trying to figure out what are all the, right, what's all the minutia in the middle, like, right, thinking about Ampaire's plane, how are you going to charge the plane, thinking about who's going to service these chargers. So there's a lot of gaps within the transition that still need to be addressed, and that's kind of what I want to get to. So I think fleet charging, right, there's more and more technologies. We just have Amply Power in cohort 8, and they're focused on fleet charging. We kind of have a more future tech, which is Charge Trip, which is figuring out like which charger are you going to go to considering your circumstances in terms of like if you have small people in your car or you're going long distance. So yeah, I think a lot of it is I want to know what are the gaps that still need to be filled so someone can present that. And the last kind of bucket that I was looking for was our cities have been hit really hard by COVID in the sense of sales tax, right? So sales tax covers most of the general fund. Most of the general fund goes to the transportation side of the city. That's why I really enjoy transportation. It's probably our most democratic service that we provide um, within our cities. And so the cities are going to have to do the same, if not more, with less funds. And so I was looking for new technologies that are revenue generating, that increase efficiency. So I know there's been a lot of, I got to cut my teeth early days of innovation on curb management, but there's a lot of other opportunities for cities to create new revenue because, right, the gas tax, that's not a very good revenue generating source
Especially
anymore.
if you're
Yeah, exactly. With the
transitioning. Yeah.
transition that we're looking for. And then the other one is parking, right? With the advent of ride hail.
Yeah.
So many fewer people are parking. And so city lots and structures are losing revenue. And so really trying to find technologies that are going to help our cities.